Hello all, James here. Now, Triple H's recent comments have once again brought up the age-old accusation of wrestling fans taking wrestling too seriously, according to the very people who create the wrestling shows and the content that we criticise for numerous reasons, we as in wrestling fans in general. And why Triple H specifically making those comments expose more about WWE's mindset than he intends to reveal. So, let's get to the comments themselves, which come from Stephen A. Smith's YouTube podcast deal last week.
You know, the other aspect of it that is I think that people lose perspective of sometimes is we're just fun, man. We're fun, and sometimes people take it too seriously. Sometimes people get too caught up in it, but it's there to entertain, man. If you want to, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. If you just want to turn off for a couple of hours and tune into something cool that you can just lose yourself in and have a good time, WWE is a place to do it. And if you've never seen it live, I'm telling you, come to a live event, come to one of our PLEs, come to a TV. There's nothing like it in entertainment.
Now, that's not the most unreasonable take, at least on the surface. We're going to dig under the surface, of course. But Vince McMahon truly did believe he felt that WWE made magic, like Disney, I guess. A welcome diversion for people who may need it the most, something uplifting overall. Triple H and co., at least publicly speaking, are giving out those same lines that wrestling should not be scrutinised or taken too seriously because at the end of the day, it's meant to be fun. Triple H gave a blunter version of this same kind of comment, this same speech, on an NXT call back in 2021, where he said the following.
A lot of options there. It's a funny thing to me sometimes that in our business, everybody is so worried about where people are going to go or land, or how is this going to play out long term in the future. How about watch it? Do you like it or do you not like it? Do you like it and do you like it? Do you have to say, well, I like it, but I like this other thing more? Or I like it, but I don't like it as much as I like that one. Like, it's watch it or don't, you know. And stop trying to figure out where everything goes. Fans ruin their own stuff half the time. Trying to figure out where everything goes and why it's going there and how, and then trying to pick up their phone and go search for the thing to find out what it is that can ruin it for them so they're not surprised when it happens. Like, I don't understand that.
Yes, I get it. It can be frustrating when fans want to second-guess your work or want to know some more insider stuff. Not everybody, but some. But it's a terrible feeling, obviously, when you put out effort into a product and people then shit on it or they second-guess it, whatever it does. I do videos all the time where people don't agree with all of my takes. That's life. You can't please everybody all the time. But WWE and Triple H also need to understand that this is wrestling. It's still wrestling. Half the fun is to guess what's going to happen in the future or to pull apart what they just saw. Not unlike any other television show or sports event. I mean, who sits and watches a football game with absolutely no opinion of what they're watching? Who doesn't get bummed out when a character on television, a favourite show, either gets marginalised or written out? This criticism is not unique to wrestling, although wrestling fans are, of course, some of the more vociferous, which can also be exhausting. But it's the same with gaming, television, the movies, music, art, tiddlywinks, anything. But here's the real point that blows up Triple H's argument. If a restaurant serves you a shitty meal at an expensive price point, should you have the right to voice your displeasure? Yes, of course you should. But here are the most telling comments from last year. It was Triple H's quotes from 2025 that exposed his true feelings on fans and online chatter directed toward WWE and TKO at large.
I wish I could tell people, off being a critic. Be a fan. This will sound offensive. Every critic that is out there, I wish I could tell people, off being a critic. Be a fan. Go watch this and be a fan. If I tell you go to the movies and watch this movie, I saw it's really good, and you just go to the movie as a fan, you watch the movie, you have one opinion. If I tell you, hey, go see this movie, but can you give me a one-page detail, like things on what you liked, what you didn't like, and if it worked for you or didn't work for you. You watch it totally differently. Right? You watch the product totally differently. It ruins it for people. The world was so much better when nobody knew, and you just watched it. And now when you know, and like, They go out and they try to ruin the surprise, and I get it, that's their business, and they try to tell you the shit that's going on in the inside. You just ruin it for people. The business that feeds you, you're now ruining it for people and lessening their enjoyment of it to a large degree because you're telling them all the shit, right or wrong, that is going to happen.
So apparently Triple H is butthurt there over people voicing their opinion. Or maybe it's people voicing their opinion with too many words or too much thought put into it. I don't know. I like how Triple H thinks out there that there aren't a million amateur film critics who submit their thoughts to social media or IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, whatever it might be. Does he even have the internet, for goodness sake? Anyway, here's the secret subtext that I read of what Triple H is saying with all those quotes. Triple H and WWE and TKO, etc., they don't want critical fans, they want passive fans to sit there like drones, consume all the wrestling shows, clap with the baby faces, boo the heels, assuming those roles are even well-defined, which they every single year they seem to be less and less so, and then stare unblinkingly at every single advert and every single sponsor, sign up for every single WWE service, buy up every single WWE ticket in your area, hashtag WWE's posts on socials so you do the work for them. Yeah, I'm sure it would make their lives easier so they can pump out another 5 hours a week of first-run television content scripted by committee, and it doesn't give them the incentive also to create actually engaging television. I'm reminded by a quote by George Carlin that I'm going to kind of slightly change up. Governments don't want a population capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers, people just smart enough to run the machines and just dumb enough to passively accept their situation. Well, replace the words governments with TKO, population with fan base, and machines with television sets, and you pretty much got WWE's and TKO's and pretty much every major corporation's mantra there. Corporations don't like independent thinkers. Independent thinkers don't spend as much money on merchandise and tickets. It's that simple. TKO and Mark Shapiro specifically have been very open on treating their current fans as less than commodities, basically statistics on a page, erasing the human element entirely. If we do stuff that we think benefits the company or basically benefits us, or, we bring in more celebrities and that turns away some long-time fans because of it, no worries. We'll just make new fans. That's what Mark Shapiro said, by the way. That's basically it. Not a direct quote, but that was the intent. Logic entirely divorced from reality, conjured up by people who see fans purely as mindless consumers rather than people who have the option to tune out, I think is a very worrying way of looking things at. But according to Triple H's last quote there, it's just all those damn wrestling journalists who hate wrestling, who spoil it for everyone and turn wrestling fans against the WWE product, instead of the fact that WWE's product has been going downhill for at least 18 months now. Now, people don't work like this, how WWE want them to be drones, at least most of them anyway. You want people to praise your product? Put out a better fucking product, man. You want fans to stop second-guessing your decisions? Make better fucking decisions. Funny how everyone blames everyone but themselves when things start going south. And I'm not talking revenue or sales here, because they're still doing great. I'm just talking purely show quality here. People complain about wrestling online, not because they like complaining. Well, actually, most of them do like complaining. But ultimately, it's because they want WWE to get better. Or whatever wrestling promotion, AEW or wherever else, they want it to get better. That's why they're complaining. And it's ultimately, I'm going to stick with WWE here, it's not getting better. Fans voice their concerns because they want change. And more specifically, they want wrestling to be up to the standard of years gone by, or to a time or a story or whatever it might be that got them to fall in love with pro wrestling in the first place. And it's not a nostalgia thing either. I think a lot of people just watch wrestling these days in the vain hope it'll improve. And wrestling is an addiction that once it gets into you, you can never really truly get rid of. So you're kind of like stuck feeling that you have to consume, whether it's good or bad over the years, so you don't miss any major storylines or have these gaping holes in your knowledge. And it feels like WWE, over quite a number of years, have preyed upon that. So Triple H says he doesn't want people to take wrestling seriously. Well, here's something for you. Wrestling, WWE especially, is charging a serious amount of money to be a fan. like over $120 per month domestically just to watch all the WWE shows on all the channels the way that TKO wants you to consume the shows, just so they can keep giving themselves outrageous performance bonuses while cutting down roster pay. 4 figures for bad seats, really, to take a family of 4 out for an evening to the WWE. It costs over $1,000, even to like a Raw taping or whatever. That's more than most people's, or not, maybe not most people's, I don't know, but the majority, a lot of people's, let's say, monthly disposable income for the entire month. Like 4 figures just to take the family out for one evening of WWE entertainment. Forgive me if I think that fans have the right to take their hobby seriously, especially when there's so much money on the line. Triple H, he says he doesn't really want fan criticism. Well, he sure didn't have a problem soaking up fan adulation when he was the NXT booker, or for the first couple of years when he headed up creative for WWE's main roster. The WWE product in 2026 is just objectively worse than it was in 2024, when the product was largely good, largely more satisfying to the audience. And guess what? In 2024, the criticism was far more balanced and was way more positive toward WWE, strangely in line with how good the product was. So, and I know this, I remember this very well because I cover this stuff every single day. In 2024, though, WWE built record-setting gates in attendance and merchandise sales and on the foundation of having pretty good shows with enjoyable storylines, for the most part, that they paid off satisfyingly in one way or another. People said at the time that, that isn't just looking back on it. People were saying that at the time. And when something didn't look like it was panning out on screen, fans still had enough faith in the company to let the stories play out to their conclusion instead of jumping down Triple H's throat week after week. But then, by 2025, all the goodwill was pretty much starting to evaporate, throughout that year especially. And it all started around the debut on Netflix. WWE essentially took its final form, the TKO megacorporation monolith. The advertising as well. The crack started showing badly on that first episode, but people fooled themselves into thinking that the Netflix debut was a great show because they still had that positive mindset for the company. But the money kept rolling in thanks to Cena's retirement tours and what the prior years had built up to that point. But 18 months later from that Netflix debut, and WWE television is for the most part very uninspired, or really straight up baffling in quite a lot of cases. They've burned through all the goodwill now that they worked hard to earn between 2022 and 2024. There are like 20 minutes of commercials in between every PLE match because TKO has just got to get their bag at the expense of the show's enjoyment and the flow, and what the fans are left with is now a mostly cold, stale product where every television show has the same plodding, bare-bones format, and every match feels more or less completely the same and sterile and kicking out of everyone's finisher 18 times, brought to you by the general insurance. Now, people aren't watching WWE for the good of their health or to do the company a favour. They are watching it to be entertained and emotionally satisfied. But if the shows aren't entertaining, this isn't on WWE, apparently. It's on you, because you are just thinking too damn much and listening to all those wrestling journalists ruining everything. Here's what I'm starting to read in all these comments. Triple H, Nick Khan, etc. are all making more and more of a song and dance, it seems. A new story like this seems to come out every month at the moment, where how they don't listen to fan criticism. Or at one town hall meeting they had recently, they started reading out fan criticism, uncited, by the way, some of them from like 9 years ago, cherry-picking bad criticism of the company or stories, whatever it might be. So Triple H and Nick Khan could pat themselves on the back saying, hey, we were right. But so why is Triple H constantly talking about how he's sick of the fans taking the product too seriously? And why has WWE constantly pivoted in line with what they think the fans will want or respond to well? And then they kind of get it wrong anyway. But I've got news for you. WWE really listen to what the fans have to say. They really do. WWE as a company, a wide company, listen to YouTube channels like this one, like other ones. I know they do. They consume podcasts. They read the newsletters. And then they get angry about everything and then blame the fans. You're always going to have your naysayers. That's absolutely fine. And people who don't like everything or pretty much anything you do, but then continue to watch for whatever reason. But on the balance, You know that if you're going in the right direction or not, if you're honest with yourself. Triple H proved that he knew how to book in NXT some years early, at least in that environment. Yes, working directly under TKO is its own kettle of fish, and I'm sure way more difficult, but I don't really accept that fully as an excuse, because I don't believe that TKO are interfering with the day-to-day productions or the storylines. I more blame the overly complicated way that WWE booked the shows in the first place, along with the responsibilities of integrating sponsors and everything else, which is actually a TKO issue as well as WWE. But Triple H and WWE really not need to start earning the goodwill back they started losing since the Netflix debut, or around there about 18 months ago, when TKO's mission statement of obey and consume less substance for more money became just too obvious to ignore. Or WWE can keep going down the same path, the same road of 4-match TV shows and 20-minute commercial blocks and predictable formats and often sometimes really baffling booking, and then claiming on interviews that it was the fans ruining it all along and not the company. But as Triple H said at the beginning of this video, WWE is a product there for yourself to lose yourself in. But if the product isn't good enough, you can't lose yourself in it. You just kind of just sit there and wonder why you're watching it in the first place, and that's not the fans' fault. Also, on the same Stephen A. Smith interview, he called Javon Evans Javon Williams. Enjoy the show.